So before learning a hanging castaway, you want to make sure you have a swing castaway. So that's when you grab off a bar, you swing, and then backwards, and push yourself into a backflip this way. Once you've learned that, you want to try and find a spot where you have space for your legs from the spot where you're hanging. So for example, if this block was to stop here and I could swing my legs under, it would be a lot easier. The reason for this is it would be a lot similar to a swing cast because you could grab the top and then swing your legs underneath the obstacle to gain momentum and then bring them behind you and then do the flip. Once you're comfortable with those two progressions, you should be ready to try it on a flat wall. So the first thing you want to do is find a good obstacle to do it on. Try and find a flat wall that has good grip at the top. At the very least, you want to make sure the top is flat so you can get your hands over like this. But if possible, find something that has a top like a bar, maybe at a park, so you can really grab and get a good grip. This is going to make it a lot easier during the trick because we're going to actually really use that corner to push. So once you've found your obstacle, you're going to get up there, hang from it, and we're going to practice getting our hips away from the wall. To do that, we're going to do a bit of a pelvic thrust on the wall and kick our legs backwards, like this. This is very important because if you don't push your hips away from the wall enough, then you're not going to be able to do the flip since the wall's going to be in the way of your legs. So you want to practice that a few times, making sure you have the right hip technique and kicking your legs backwards. When you bring your legs backwards, you can almost try and kick your bum, but you want to make sure that you don't go all the way. So when you bring your legs backwards, you can bring them to a little bit more than a 90-degree. So once you're comfortable getting your hips away from the wall, we're going to practice the push. So we're going to do the same thing and practice pushing off of the obstacle that you're hanging off of. So when you push, make sure you don't push straight like this, like a palm flip. Make sure you push with your arms this way. It also helps that as you bring your hips away from the wall, you try and do a bit of a chin up. This makes the flip a lot easier because you get a lot more height. So as you bring your hips away, you want to make sure you pull up a little bit in a chin up, and then you can push. So you want to practice that a few times without the flip to make sure you're comfortable. So you see that as I push away from the wall, I'm slightly bending my arms and pulling myself up, which is going to help me get a lot more height for this flip. The more height you get, the less high that your obstacle needs to be. So the next thing you want to practice is the kick. So we're going to be pushing our hips away from the wall, pulling ourselves up, and then pushing. But as you push, you want to straighten out your legs a little. It's almost going to feel like a stall, but it's not. So you're going to push and slightly kick. So you want to practice those all together until you're comfortable with it. So if you're comfortable doing that and it looks really good in practice, you should be ready for the flip. So what you're going to do is as soon as your feet are done kicking, you're going to bring your knees in for a tuck. You want to make sure your tuck is as tight as possible, because if it's not tight, then your feet could graze the wall. If your feet are grazing the wall, it's probably one of two reasons. One, you're not tucking enough, or two, you didn't push your hips away from the wall enough. So then at this point, you're going to tuck as tight as possible while making sure you're pushing this way as hard as possible. So you want to make sure you've pulled up and then push as far as possible away from the obstacle. You want to make sure you push at this angle like this. At this point, you're in a tuck, you're already starting the flip, and if you've done everything as instructed, you should be able to land. So you're tucking as tight as possible, and about halfway in the flip, just like a backflip, you'll be able to spot the ground so you'll know when to open up from your tuck and land.